Well, it only took nearly 2 months, but I'm finally back. I was very busy with university. I've just finished my final year. So if it looks like I've aged about 10 years, not 10 weeks, then that's why. It's, pretty tiresome few months. However, it's been very worth it. Good times. Exciting things happening just outside of the channel and like music wise and everything. So I do music for my degree. Oh, I finished that now. But yeah, exciting times. But what better way to return to the channel than with a return album, which, if you saw my post, had a little teaser. There was Cure in caps. I tried to like sneak that in there somewhere, and that means obviously the Cure and their return album of Songs of a Lost World that was released in 2024, in November 2024. So it's it's kind of a year and a half old now, and I not listened to it until about, well, this morning. I listened to it twice, and I think most people will know who the Cure are. Definitely know some of their hits as well. I'm definitely aware of them. I would say I'm a fan, not a sort of a, not like a devout fan. I've listened to a couple of their albums, of course. Disintegration, probably their most sort of acclaimed one. But yeah, I didn't know too much about them and what they were doing. But this is their first album in 16 years. Their one before came out in 2008. And they were actually inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2019. So, I think basically everyone thought, they're probably done. I don't know if they were touring too much. They started, I think, in like 1978 was their like foundation, and were popular throughout the 80s and 90s. Robert Smith has kind of mainly been the figurehead of the band. He does like most of the talking. He's quite a character. There's a lot of famous interviews with him, and he writes a lot of the music. He writes all the lyrics as well off this album, and they're usually very sort of personal, kind of love orientated as well, and helps to define this gothic rock genre that they're kind of associated with. And so I guess with that out of the way, I'm just going to go straight into it. I feel like this album, I didn't know too much going into it, but I knew of the Cure's sound, and they definitely have a sound. But this kind of takes on a whole new thing. It's very ambient, and there isn't much in terms of lyrics. As in, I mean, there is, to be honest, but they're only ever in like half the song. A lot of the songs have long openings, instrumental openings, and this first track alone has that, and it sounds very much like Cocteau Twins. I found that was my immediate sort of reaction, but it's definitely the Cure. They have the kind of like jangly kind of guitars and the big sort of booming drum sounds. So it's very unequivocally the Cure, but it's kind of a lot darker. It sets the tone very well at the start. And also the drums play the guitar melody. There's like, I thought it was a bit, but there's like a kind of a spanky sort of guitar, and the drums play in line with that, which I thought was really cool, just in the opening instrumental section. But immediately when the lyrics come in, we're thrown into this sort of retrospective sort of position, and reflective. He's talking about where did it all go, and there's lyrics that are talking about looking back on when you're younger and the good old days and things like that. And obviously, this was, 2024, 1976 it was formed. That's nearly 50 years after the formation of the band. That's they've grown up together, most of them. I know there's been like a few little lineup changes, but in terms of coming from where Robert Smith's talking from, a lot has changed. And it's, I think, making music after so long and releasing it, you're going to be very retrospective and looking back on sort of how a long and illustrious career. And yeah, it's almost a kind of reflective account on the artist's sort of heyday and the good old days, and it really sets the tone for the album. And that's continued in the next song, which is "And Nothing Is Forever." So, in terms of like legacy of a band, you would hope it goes on forever. They've been inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but maybe having it been so long since making music, he feels like it won't go on forever. I guess the making of the music won't. But in later songs, he talks about worrying about when after he's gone, he's passed, if it will continue, which of course it will. I mean, he's more than right to worry about sort of a legacy. I feel like that's a part of being an artist. Like, will your art live on longer than yourself? But again, back to the second song, he's talking about lyrics that I know that my world has grown old. He talks that repeats that line a lot. Also, promise you'll be with me in the end and in the silence of a heartbeat. He kind of, it's almost as if he's going back to the like love songs that they used to make, or more famous songs of theirs, but interweaving this sort of message that the music won't as well. It's kind of like a dual narrative sort of thing going on. But also, nothing lasts forever in terms of a romantic way is very true as well. The lyric "promise you'll be with me in the end," again, hoping that the partner will be with him, and the silence of the heartbeat, you slip beside me. It's he sort of wants comforting almost. He's being very vulnerable in this state, and is again worrying that nothing is forever, and hopes that it can in some way, and that his art and passion and love can live on. The next song, "A Fragile Thing," talks about distance in romance, and how love can fade. This is very much just about sort of romantic relationships, this song. That he literally states this love is a fragile thing, and sort of talks about the process of being away from a partner and how that can impact your relationship. It's kind of like, relationships take effort, else the feeling can kind of fade with distance. He's saying is a play on the like distance makes the heart grow fonder. It's kind of saying the opposite, how distance can kind of it can draw you apart. That it's like a double-edged sword. It can make you grow fonder, and their feelings clearly are that it's now like it's heartbreak, and they're not even they're still together technically, but the distance kind of makes them feel this heartbreak, so they're not actually together. And one of my favorite lyrics from this song is "You promise me forever and say it won't be long," which is like it's just that's such a good lyric, saying they'll be together forever, but this other person is away, but is saying that it won't be long. So it's kind of like, well, is it not going to be long until you're back, or is it not going to be long in terms of this relationship lasting? There's a lot of really cool lyrics like that in this album. The next song, "War Song," which I think there's two songs. There's "War Song" and "End Song," which are similar to "Love Song." I think they have another couple that are like "Something Song," and it's all one word. Again, very reflective of like past times. "Love Song" is one of their biggest songs, and this song has a very long and ambient sort of opening, and there's like these really cool guitar like scraping sounds, and this whole album is very well produced, very well engineered, and all these songs, although different, excuse me, I don't know what happened there. Although different, they are it's very cohesive, and I think this is an album that I'd return to as an album. There's one or two songs that I've listened to on their own, but in terms of it's very much like a soundscape overall. And this song kind of made me realise how Robert Smith uses his voice in this album. It's almost as if it's another instrument, which it is, but as in these long openings sort of establish this motif and you get sort of familiar with it, and then the voice comes in, offers something different. But it kind of nestles itself in with the rest of the instruments really well. I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe I'm sort of thinking, but I don't know. I just kind of noticed it's like, it's not, obviously the lyrics are there and the voice is there, but it's like everything is the same, sort of adding the same sort of value in terms of the melody and construction of the song. It's like one sort of cohesive story, I guess, made by the members of the band. Apologies if that was confusing. It makes sense to me. I don't know. I just thought this song picked up on it. Maybe listen to it and it's like, but yeah, just the way that all the lyrics come in like halfway through the song is really cool. This song's talking about the end of a relationship, kind of all's fair in love and war sort of thing. And then it kind of hits this lyric that's for we were born to war. And there's like a melodic shift. It suddenly takes on like a bit of a darker tone, gets a bit more space. The drums cut out, and you know there's a shift, and it's kind of a realization from the narrator that maybe they never were meant to be together, them and this person, which is, it's, you know, that's a really tough thing to sort of realize, that he's, or maybe not that they were never meant to be together, but it can't last. You know, they keep fighting, and that's, you know, that's not a good sign in any relationship. The next song, Drone: No Drone, has a really cool like opening jam. I feel like this is like a kind of single sort of thing. It's a bit more upbeat. However, the lyrics are really dark, which kind of adds this juxtaposition, which is really interesting. But yeah, it's got a killer like opening jam, like all the other songs. It's very grungy as well, and Robert Smith's talking about a loss of direction and kind of identity within yourself. Lyrics like "I can't take anymore if I ever really could" shows how he's sort of frustrated with being conflicted in yourself. You kind of get the sense that he's not sort of content with himself and is aware of that, but is annoyed that is the case so much. He talks about looking down the barrel of a warm gun and that there's one last shot at happiness, which is really dark. And I kind of sort of, maybe this is sort of, maybe I'm reading it wrong, but it's kind of talking about suicide here, which honestly wouldn't feel out of place in this kind of album, but it's it's kind of, again, talking about like dark times and being frustrated within yourself and not knowing how to go about that. And the lyric "down, down, down, I'm pretty much done" is repeated a lot. There's kind of this sense of despair in this song. And I think it maybe ties into this next song that's called "I Can Never Say Goodbye," which is kind of ballady. It feels that most of the songs are fairly slow, but this feels even slower. And there's a really nice sort of piano melody that kind of plays really softly compared to this grungy guitar sound. And there's a lot of references to sort of weather and nature in this, like lightning and the wind and sea, and the sort of natural way of affairs. And I think that this song is, the lyric is "steal away my brother's life," and then "I can never say goodbye." I'm assuming that he's talking about the death of his brother, and these references to nature and reality, it gives a sense that there's sort of, it's the cruel reality of life and death, and it's kind of inescapable, which I feel like everyone who has suffered like the loss of someone who's close has experienced that. It's a very powerful sort of thing. I remember, I forget what I was watching this podcast. I forget who it was. It was like a science podcast sort of thing, and they were talking about experiencing the death of someone, but being there. So as someone sort of takes their final breath, and it's a very powerful experience. Apparently, I've not experienced it, but I've seen sort of people at the end of their life, and it is very, very humbling. But seeing someone take their last breath and seeing this whole circle of life, and that is the end, is extremely powerful, and that is nature doing its course. And I feel like that's what he's talking about in this song. And then the sort of grungy guitar sounds add a grittiness to it that kind of, it's there's this sense of despair sort of thing from the song before. And with those sort of grungy guitar sounds, that continues, or the song cuts off actually at the end. He says nothing, and then it cuts to nothing. It's very powerful. Or is that the last song? That's the last song. Anyway, but in the next song, again, there's loads of space at the start, like instrumentally. Again, half the song is just instrumental, this sort of big build up, slowly adding different elements, and then the lyrics come in. And I think the intention of the space at the start of the songs is to make you reflect on the previous songs. It's very sort of dark and powerful themes that are being talked about, and it makes you reflect on them, having the space at the start of the next song. This song, All I Ever Am, talks about regret and sort of worrying too much of past decisions, but also it talks about worrying about what is to come as well. There's kind of two halves to this song, and the lyrics such as I lose all my life like this, and if I just stop and empty out my mind. It's kind of, again, it's like it's very similar to drone / no drone, being lost within yourself and worrying about your sort of past decisions and having regrets. And dwelling on them, you can sort of lose yourself within your own mind. And then also talking about worrying about things that are coming after, talking about after I give up a dark and empty stage, despite everything, it'll never be enough. All I ever am is somehow not quite all I am now. Which, that lyric really got me. That was really sort of powerful, as it were. All I ever am is somehow not quite all I am now. It's like, you've come this far, but you're never a sum of the experiences that you've had, or maybe you don't realize it. Robert Smith, there's a lot of sort of inner conflict he's talking about here. And then again, talking about a dark and empty stage, despite everything, it'll never be enough. That links to what I was talking about earlier, and how worrying about your legacy not being as long as you'd hope it would be, and not lasting long. And that is, that's a very real fear. Everyone wants to be remembered after they're gone, and have some sort of impact in the world, especially if it's to do with art and you have any form of like success. You don't want to just be like shrugged off as like another name. You want to be, remembered for some form of impact, or be an inspiration on just be an inspiration. I'm looking down my notebook, so I realised I looked down a lot, but I took a lot. That's for half of it, and then there's the last two songs there. I got a new notebook as well, so it's official now. I'm back. Anyway, to loop back to the album, an end song, the final song, has a massive intro and build up. It's actually 5 minutes of this 10-minute song. And this sort of slow lumbering build up feels very final. It's like an end of the road. And he talks about, it's all gone, I don't belong, I will lose myself in time, and left alone with nothing at the end of every song. Like this is I feel like this is definitely Robert Smith's last project. He's kind of reflecting on this long journey of being a musician for over 50 years and sort of having this public spotlight. And it's very human, you know. It's very very eye-opening as well. It kind of reminds me of the Johnny Cash cover of Hurt. Weirdly, this whole album reminds me of one song, but just in terms of how Johnny Cash made that song have take on a different meaning, and it's kind of reflective. That's more so at the end of his life. This is at the end of their career, and it's almost like a farewell or swan song, end song to the Cure's catalogue, but in maybe not as hopeful way as you'd want, but that kind of, you know, that maybe that's just reflective of the band. You know, there's not nothing's ever sunshine and rainbows. It's very, you know, seeing as the older you get, the more you see, the more you lose people, and the more you may sort of dwell on regrets and sort of lose a sense of purpose. And I mean, not releasing an album for 16 years after you've done music your whole life, that's gonna have an effect on you. That's gonna weigh on you. So yeah, I mean, this is a very initial, as usual, a very initial sort of reflection on the song, on the album. I listened to it twice today, and I will definitely listen to it. Pardon me again. Definitely listen to it more. Well, just more generally. It's really good, and it also makes me want to go listen to their back catalogue. They have, you know, some of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard, to be honest. I think All I Ever Am is, you know, that's pretty damn devastating. That's my sort of my pick of the album, as I usually do. But yeah, it was great to make a video again, and I'm glad to be back. This is probably a little bit more chaotic than usual, just as I get back into the things. But I have a couple of ideas for things I'm going to do. Some more recent albums. Some that are a bit older as well. Maybe a bit niche, you know. Everyone's trying to be niche nowadays. So yeah, we'll go from here. But yeah, that's it.